Good morning and welcome to today's crypto day morning for today's date in that of Friday, the 28th day of December 2018. My name is Derek. All bets trades within each his own risk and reward. Today's video will look at Bitcoin, also a few other altcoins, and we're going to finish off within hockey. And there's two games coming up, one on Friday night and another on Sunday, that might have extreme value towards such. And I'm going to use the mic because I know there's definitely got to be some. But those whom are familiar with these junior hockey players might clarify that it is as amazing long-term odds as I would, as I'm seeing. Anyway, let's go on to the charts. We'll do Bitcoin first, and within such on the 4-hour term time frame, there was the last key high around 42. We have this low in about 31. So therefore, let's take a look at the Fibonacci retracement amongst the low and the high. The 38.2% is rounding in at, not weighing in at, but rounding in at that of 3,769. After the fall occurred here, that's the area where it congested and trade above and below for several periods. It resisted it for 3 low volatile ones in here before this decent size, but smaller than this, red candle down, and has now just been consolidating or congesting amongst this very low volatile range between the this little area here. So the 61.8% level, it's rounding in at 3,508. So therefore, it does seem as if there should be a test of that level coming in the next 1 to 6 periods or within the day. And this is an interesting big level because to me, I look at Fibonacci retracement as the 61.8% level from going that way. So 61 down, 61 up. That's the must hold area, or where it would be a failure if it is to break down below. So if there's weakness amongst 3,500 and you're seeing it fall below it, then this tells me the rally from the middle of December up until Christmas would be that of a failed one. And then when viewing such amongst the daily term time frame, like any little pattern, I don't know the easiest way to talk about this in a textbook, but it'd be a most definite topic to talk about. You got a downtrend. You have that rally. It's always going to go above the 18 highs. And as it shows the weakness and falling from it, then you usually very rarely, well, you usually break low, you very rarely hold support. So therefore, you get the leg lower, and then the leg lower is a noticeable break below usually. So on 31, the last low before that was like 35, so now you might be talking about 26, 27, and that's really minimum level as well, and maybe more probable for that matter as well. But therefore, if it holds this area, then you're noticing the 18 would go flat. It would not go lower, at least by no rate of descent worth mentioning. And in technical analysis, whenever you have this situation when the price action does spend significant time within such, and this is the 4th day it is in the 18, and you get the movements breaking out above. Right now, breaking out above would be noticeably over 3,900. Then that gives you very high probabilities, if you have the correctionary move, you break higher, that it would break higher from here and then test, will probably be a 61.8% Fibonacci up here, or an area close to or near the 5,000 handle. So that is the Bitcoin analysis for today, or for this morning, because I've got a good I have a good chance I'll continue the charts later throughout the day. Let's take a look at a few altcoins. And within technical analysis, one of the things I talk about is it's just probability odds that change and increase based on the situation. It might be more or less likely for a certain event to take place. And in here, you establish this resistance and come back and support the 18 lows for 3 days. Nice. And then here's a shot for it to break out. So the chances of having a 30-ish% gain, or at least a chance of having a good break above the 18 average of highs, was pretty good. I mean, it didn't happen at that point, But then it came back, it held that area amongst this retracement here. And as you see it in here, during these 2 days here, the chances again that the market was going to have a good play was significantly higher than normal, but it didn't do it. And it broke down below the support, but it stayed above this previous level of support, thus hanging in there, staying with the 18 average of lows. So at the end of yesterday's day, or at 7 p.m. yesterday, when looking at the market, if you were to ask and say, oh, what's the chances of a good day for Decred in the next 24 hours, 7 o'clock last night? I would have said, well, definitely a lot lower than it was 3 or 4 days ago. I mean, it could happen. It's holding the 18. But, I mean, I don't like how the fact you go down to it, you have this pause day, now it's testing it again. It would look more likely that it's going to the 423 handle, but of course, no, it's at the 553 handle now. And when viewing so on the single hour time frame, when it got going, it got going. We can notice that it took several periods from the low to in play. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 periods that preceded this one here, and then 2 that preceded this monstrous one. Because in technical analysis, when you break a key level of resistance, there was a short-term one here. And just want to ensure that this is a key level by looking at a different time frame. So 4 hour. Oh, big time key level. So when you look at this on the single hour, it I can't do a better chart, but the bottom line is it took normal volatile movement to get to this line. Relatively decent fast move to this next key level, which is where you would expect to go to next, and really no resistance, and the fast move. That is normal in the key points. You break it either on the support or the resistance, oftentimes you break it good. Powell, on the other hand, this thing looks ready to get going. Probability odds very, very high, or at least much higher, for this to have a continuation over the next day to multiple days of some nice prices higher than where we stand at the 170 mark. So it's early on in the level of resistance. The whole point of markets when they're up so much, I mean, I can never be a buyer. And when they're down so much, I can never be a seller unless there's some sort of reason why I need to. And I mean, if you're selling one market down to another and buying another market that's down, I mean, that's pretty much just a flip-flop. But when the market gets up here in a move and you have a good-sized green candle, then it makes it very difficult to be a buyer, because oftentimes you're just going to get a good pullback. But if you know that there's a good chance that if this thing breaks this resistance, what's the minimum place it goes to? And if you at least say in this area here, and you have a good sized green candle, we'll take a look at another chart next just to show you one. I mean, you've seen many before. But the lower parts of the green candles is obviously where you'd say it might be a good spot to buy. And it's just broken out past this level of resistance. And I don't play the trading game where I wait for a situation exactly like this, and then to me this is a long entry position point. 4 hour term time frame, we can see the high volume came in with this move. It's consolidated well. It's already had a play back, and when I was looking at this a while ago, I was seeing it when it was at like 163, 164, and I was just thinking, man, yeah, break down in here at like 7 in the morning. At this point here, I'm thinking, how do you not buy some of the things if you're playing that game? And for me, I've already sold at the 175 mark. I bought at 150. I got a new buy order in at 140 something, and I got a sell order at over 200 somewhere. So I'm just going to let the market do what it does from this point on. And I realize, because I am selling at over 400 on the daily time, or 200 rather. I mean, this is the area where I would say, yeah, that's a good spot to sell, because that's a decent sized leg higher from here. And if it's going up like this, it's just such a risky play to buy. Now that's relatively short term. I mean, there's not much data here, but when you have spots that long term where market's up like 50%, 100, 125% from these lows, long term, that's not up much considering what the probability rate for gains could be. And an example on such might be Komodo. Even if it breaks out to like 28,000 from this 13,000 low, when we look at longer term charts on this, it's still low. But I love the look of this chart. It's just getting nicer and nicer to me as it moves on. You have this level of resistance that occurs on November the 29th, and it pulls back to the 18 average of highs. And I talk about the spots where it has to hold. Well, there's a picture perfect example of it doing such. It makes this lower high again in here. Why is it? I don't know why it's not drawing, but there we go. It makes this lower high, but amazing support amongst the 18. It resists the 18 for a little bit here, but it gets above it, and after the fact, after the situation of breaking resistance, establishing the resistance is part of that process, it has spent several days in here correcting amongst the 18 average of highs in the newly rising form. The newly rising form showing momentum, bullish activity, slowly starting to get in. This level of resistance has already been established. It was resisted yesterday. It was resisted today and barely taken out. Okay. So then the action, when we look at this, say on a weekly term time frame, well, it's sideways. We had this support level now that's been in play from the 2018 lows. Again, through all of this, it's congested and stayed amongst this point for quite some time, where here it spent little time. And that oftentimes can be normal for either support or resistance. But if it's able to break out, then you're making an attempt to revert trend on the longer term time frame. And normally when that's the case, you're going to be doing the process of establishing some level of resistance. Which is why I think conservatively 28 to 31 is just that, a conservative price point figure. And if the market's straight up from there, that's why I state if something's up straight up and you see, oh, a big beautiful green candle up, you'd say, oh, why would you buy when it's up like double? Well, there's going to be spots long term where maybe it is, you buy here, maybe it pulls back, you don't care because you're a long term player, and then it does that, and that's oftentimes normal trading. But maybe in one time they might want to do that is, yeah, I don't mind buying at 28 if it breaks higher, realizing that it may pull back, but I do realize if it gets to 28 in like a day or two, it could very easily be at 68 in the next day or two after that, because that's oftentimes how these markets come into play. So this is, again, this is the pretty much entire Komodo chart, and I'm going a little slow here, and I got a couple of charts I still want to go over, plus the hockey information, so let's move on. Quick update on Theta, as I talked about this last night. Big move here. Not as big one here, and this one is not as big again. Again, coming back to the 18 average, congestion lower areas. It's been holding those areas a little deeper than I thought. Well, here's another test again. That line that I got drawn in around 1249, going to be a very interesting point, which happens to be, I think, my buy order with 1252, the low, which is fine. It's just supporting this right now. Like I said yesterday, when it's ready to go for big moves, I'm not going to be concerned if it does end up breaking down below the support. In fact, if anything, I'll hope it does it with Bitcoin going down to 2,500 as well, because then I can take some funds that I would sell on TUSD and thus buy Theta at a cheaper price and even have a lot more of the coins. Either way, though, I'm just going to trade the market for whichever movement it does next. And I'm going to finish off the actual charts with ETC. Price point that came up to this level of resistance, having a nice break, and now to the 18 average of highs pretty much. I mean, technically speaking, it didn't, as it's a pierce above, but I mean, close enough as far as I'm concerned. I'll shorten out the time frame, but this thing has the potential to get going as I look at it. It most certainly can retrace deeper successfully even at this 1195 area. For that's where I'd want it to hold a nice move. That's where the 18 average would not decline. All that kind of fun stuff. On the 4-hour term, I see how it's had support here. It's resisted up to the 18. So it's now trying to get above it, maybe taking a little bit of a breather. So when I move this over to the single-hour time frame, it makes these stories so much easier, because if I'm looking to make a play on something like a break of this resistance, this time frame is going to help me so much. I see it's having this correctionary move in here. If it's able to break above this level of resistance, then I think we might be ready for an amazing gain higher, because doing such, I think, gives us low success rate in resistance at 1468. What do I mean by low success rate? I feel that if it does break out above here, the best you're going to get for resistance is the market correcting through time or coming back to 1400 to 1420 area. So that, to me, would be low success rate, and I think a high probability chance on the situation that we support this area now, or even a failed move would even be better, but either way. But we make a move up towards here, and it gets to this point, the probability that very soon thereafter the fact that it has a significant leg higher would be relatively good. But I would be wanting to see the price action have a nice clear break above. If it's able to, and I know the markets are fast, if it can hold and stay above, say, 1384, 1813-ish area for like maybe 2, 3, 4 hours. I know that's tough to do for me, period, but just for these crypto markets in general, that it's got great potential within its gains going forward. But it's in the process of correcting this move from 8 p.m. last night to 6 in the morning today. So it's in that correctionary play, and we'll just let that go through. So thank you those whom are tuning out now for watching the video. Now let's move on to the hockey and some selections that I've made, and a big play coming up on Friday or Saturday and Monday. Saturday and Monday. And right now I got the New York Islanders laying a goal and a half. The Toronto Maple Leafs are playing the Columbus Blue Jackets. If Garrett Sparks is in net, I'll be liking a play on the Columbus Blue Jackets. And the Montreal Canadiens, if Antti Niemi is starting, a fade of the Montreal Canadiens in that game. But on Saturday night, I've added another bet as well on another site. Switzerland laying 3.5 goals with a great price of plus 238. I've also put another wager in Switzerland laying 2 goals at minus 104. And also a special prop bet in the Switzerland-Denmark game. And I think this is the very strong bet. Whether it'll win a third time in a row, we'll see. Switzerland-Denmark, both teams do not score, plus 503. Let's take a look at some quick information amongst this game. And I'm going to be using the site on, let me just, Habs Eye on theprize.com, but this has got the roster for Switzerland. I really don't know these guys, or I obviously don't know them. I've never even heard of their names before, and I only watched the last minute of the game last night against Canada. Switzerland has been getting better and better throughout the years. They're definitely a team worth highly considering to be good, even let alone competitive or okay, whatever. So that's their team. Strengths, they're an older team. That's a good thing. And it's an older tournament, so almost every team should be. They have 13 players who play in... some of these players are familiar with the style that have played in... And they have 13 who play in North America. So 13 of their players are North American players. That's huge, given that the tournament is in Vancouver. So they have a very good team. Now, this is what is really big. Switzerland's place depends on their goaltending. If they get performances they need to win, low-scoring games, they should be able to move on the elimination route. Russia is always a wild card. International tournaments this year is no different. That said, Switzerland's key game will be their opening contest against the Czech Republic. If If they can manage to win that, they will have set themselves up. This isn't what I read. Basically, there's something that I read somewhere that they are a very good trap team. Their trap game is phenomenal. And when we look at the schedule, Czech Republic defeated Switzerland 2-1 on Boxing Day. Canada defeated Denmark 14-0, thus covering a 7-goal spread. And moving on, yesterday, the Russians beat the Great Danes 4-0. So they've now been outscored 18-0, the Denmark team. And they've yet to score a goal. And Switzerland staying in tough with the greatest team, I would think, on the tournament slate, especially with them at home, the Canadians, with a 3-2 defeat on the Switzerland side. So the fact that you can get 5-1 odds for a team, and look at the teams getting shut out. Kazakhstan gets shut out. Denmark, of course. Denmark. We have a 2-1 game. We have a 2-1 game. The losers of these games have oftentimes scored 0 and 1 goal. And there is only 2 players on the Denmark team that were drafted in the first 3 rounds of the NHL draft. Canada has 20 of them, and I'm sure Switzerland has done better in bringing NHL players amongst the level. Denmark is just I was like, what? Denmark's in this tournament, really? I'm thinking, really? I mean, Kazakhstan, okay, I'm familiar. Belarus, Slovakia, even Norway, I would expect should beat Denmark. Norway. Switzerland can compete with Canada and the Czech Republic. Denmark, if they play Canada, Czech Republic, Russia, Sweden, Finland, Germany, they're not going to do well. Now Switzerland, I think, is better than Germany. Is Germany even... I guess Germany's in a different pool, but why is Germany not in this tournament? But as we move into New Year's Eve, we're going to have another Great Dane game. Poet didn't even know it. They'll be playing the Czech Republic. So again, I'll be looking to lay the goals on the Czech Republic, especially if I win again in a 3-0, 4-0, 5-0 shutout. Although 3-0 is a loss on the -3.5, but all the other ones would win. And I'll be looking to do the same thing again. Play the Czech Republic and a shutout in the game. Thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great day. And yes, if you understand these players better, the Denmark guys and the guys on Switzerland, then maybe you can come up with what might be a more accurate test of results. But I think the probability odds that they're very, very good values is very high. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.